Hey there guys, it's Metro, and I wanted to make a video on this situation with this mount because I feel like, first of all, it's a very heavily asked question. If you guys aren't aware, they made a new Brutosaur mount. I guess if you're not aware what a Brutosaur mount is, in Battle for Azeroth, it was a 5 million gold purchase from a vendor that would give you an auction house. The mount has an auction house on it. It also had a repair guide on it as well. And a lot of people back in BFA looked at this as an invaluable tool, especially those who raid or do a lot of content together outside in the world. Like, they don't want to keep going back to the auction house to be able to do these things. So it became like really, really crucial. But, at the time, it's not easy to have a mailbox down, but between a full raid group, you probably have somebody who can drop a mailbox at any given time. So you'd have no real issues using the auction house in this way. And it was really interesting because at the time, the mount was looked at as something like, well, we only need one guy in the guild for it. A lot of people suggested that if we all just put a bunch of gold together, it would be worth the investment to have out of 20 people all putting, however much, a couple 100,000 gold in, then you would all have this mount and you would never have any issues with that. But of course, people aren't that selfless. Nobody would want to really do that, but it's an interesting idea, right? And so at the time, they made a post saying that, this mount, since it was such an incredible investment, like 5 million gold is a crazy investment, no matter who you are, right? A lot of people were concerned that they were going to buy it and it was going to get somehow removed, like the actual ability to use the auction house might get changed or something like that. So Blizzard kind of early on took a stand and said, no, this will never go away. Buy this now. This mount was worth purchasing and it was going to be something you're going to have for the rest of the time. Then this week, they randomly dropped a new mount that has this feature. Okay. So we're talking about Battle for Azeroth. I'm pretty sure this was there on launch. So we're talking about like 5 years ago, right? At this point, like, has it been enough time? That's the first question I have to ask myself. I think when you make a 5 million gold investment, you'd be upset if this mount came out, 1 year later, right? And the thing about the Brutosaur is that it continued to occur through the black money auction house, being able to buy it. But that was almost every time, I'm sure, was sold for 10 million gold. And this was because of the scarcity of the idea of having an auction house mount, but also because it's a ridiculously large mount, like the biggest mount in the game by a lot. And I think a lot of people like that feature of it too. So anyway, they made another mount. It looks extremely similar, very long neck, tall dinosaur mount. This one's way cooler color-wise. It's like a dark blue with some like gold ornaments on the actual seat. And this mount actually has a mailbox instead of a repair guy, which is ridiculous. Like, that is so much more functional because apparently, I don't even know this for sure, but apparently, like, to have a mailbox now, all the different things share a cooldown, and so you can only do it once every, I think somebody said 4 hours. So I don't know that that's true, but if it is, that means you can summon a mailbox at will now. And I think a lot of people like this convenience. So right now we're just talking about the philosophy of the mount. Do I think it's a good philosophy to, have a thing that's worth 5 million gold, not have it in the game for a long time where nobody could purchase it outside of the black money auction house, and then return it at some point in the future, regardless of, even if it's the exact same amount for 5 million gold again? Do I think it's a good philosophy? I don't love that, honestly. I don't think that's a good philosophy from the design. I don't think it was right of Blizzard to remove it if they ever had plans to return it in the first place. But regardless, that's what they chose to do. So, moving past that topic now onto the real hot topic, and that is the price tag. So I think I've laid down this foundation pretty well at this point, but you may have not fully understood what I've been saying. A 5 million gold mount is a lot of gold, right? I think a lot of people look at gold as a commodity that is pretty exchangeable in real life currency now. It is still illegal to buy gold from, third-party sellers, but you can do so pretty easily with the WoW token. So the WoW token is something that you can turn, I think it's $20, right? It's $20, and you turn that into whatever the price of the token is, and that's based on some kind of economic trend in the auction house. The whole situation there is all something that's monitored by Blizzard, but it's meant to be like a real economy. And if people are wanting to convert money into gold, then that token goes up, or I guess goes down. And if people are vice versa, then it goes up, kind of like what we have right now. And so you could easily look at a 5 million gold mount as something that is directly relatable to IRL currency. And I'm just talking about it from the United States. I know that there's a really weird situation going on in some countries where the currency in WoW is actually somehow more valuable because of this exchange rate. All I know is the American dollar, the country, where Blizzard operates, this is the standard, I'd imagine, when they make these decisions. It is substantially cheaper to buy a $90 mount than a 5 million gold mount if you're talking about that exchange rate. And that is not to be discounted. When people are sitting here talking about a $90 mount, I think a lot of people initially react to the fact that most mounts on the WoW shop are $25, or is it 35 now? It's definitely not 90. In fact, it's not even half of 90. I don't know what the cheapest and the most expensive mount ever was, but I'd imagine the range is very small compared to what now the cheapest and the most expensive is now, a $90 mount. And I think on top of that, I think a lot of people are reacting to the fact that Blizzard did say it will be removed at some point from the shop. And I don't really understand why they would do that. You know, you say about like the FOMO thing, like fear of missing out. Okay, I got to buy this mount now because you never know when they're going to take it away. No, they told you when it's going to go away. It's going to be after the Christmas holiday, which is when I would imagine most people would have free funds to potentially buy something in a game that they like. It's not anytime soon. Like we're talking about 2+ months, right? I think it's like the first week of January is being removed, probably whenever the next patch and season start. And I don't really understand what the point of doing that at all is. But one way or the other, they have, you know, some financial division that probably makes these choices for them. I don't care about that part of it at all. I don't think them removing it has any bearing on my thoughts on it or if it's a good or bad thing. It's just irrelevant to me. That doesn't mean anything to me whatsoever, because anybody who wants that is probably going to buy it right now, and they're probably going to remove it because it's probably going to be on the trading post at some point. That's my first thought. Like they did this with a lot of things now that seem really exclusive. You can buy it now or you can wait. And it's probably gonna be on the trading post at some point, right? Because didn't they do that with the transmogs? I think they've done that with a few things that were like, hey, this is on the shop now, but a couple months later, it's on the trading post, right? So I don't know that that's gonna happen. I don't know how a $90 amount would even translate to the trading post. Like, would it end up being like the full month of trading tender? I don't know. Who knows? But I think that's a very real possibility. And a lot of people are saying that Blizzard is actually setting themselves up to do this, and it may be as early as February on the trading post. But that's not really the interesting topic. The topic is this dichotomy of people who say a $90 amount is either good or bad, right? And I think a lot of people are not understanding the situation here at all, or they're not being fair to the situation one way or the other. Like, however you slice it, the mount existed as an auction house mount. 5 years ago, you can buy it with gold, but I bet a lot of people didn't buy it with gold. Let's put it that way, right? So if you're going to convert it, we're talking like at least $500, right? And I think people were saying it could have been up to $800 depending on when you bought the WoW tokens. And now there's a mount that's not the exact same mount, which is crucial to understand that too, but there's a mount that has very similar functionality for $90. So I think most people are reacting to the fact that it's $90 compared to the other prices of the mount. But in reality, you should be reacting to the fact that it's $90 compared to the previous mount. I think that's probably the bigger issue. Like, I think that's a far more notable part of this discussion than the opposite. You know, that 5-year gap for a potential, like, what, 500% price decrease on a mount that a lot of people thought was going to be a relatively exclusive mount, that is far more notable than the mount being $90. Yeah, is $90 a lot of money? Yes, but that's not like, it's not the full story here. The full story is that there used to be a mount that you could buy for $500, and a lot of people did. I think if there's anything offensive about it, it's that. They're basically saying like, okay, well, anybody who did that back then, you had it for 5 years, you had your exclusive time, now it's time for everybody else to have a shot at it. And, you know, so people saying like, oh, it should be $30 or something like that. You not thought this through. I really feel like that. Like, you haven't thought this through. For it to be the same price as every other mount is just frankly insulting to anybody who bought it in the past, even if you bought it purely with gold. Like, if you look at it from an hour to gold ratio, there's nobody in the world who's going to make less money than it would take you time to do a 5 million gold purchase. I mean, I guess unless you're like one of these like hyper competitive boosting groups or some bullshit like that, that you could potentially make like 5 million a day or something like that in terms of gold revenue. Like, I don't know what the upper end of that could possibly be, but I think on average your regular player is going to take far more time than to just simply save up money IRL and convert that to WoW tokens than they would by getting 5 million gold in the game, you know? I definitely think like if there was a part of it that's offensive, it would be that. It would be the fact that it's now only $90. Only $90, right? Not the other way around. So do I give any credence to the conversation that $90 is too much money for a mount? No, not at all. People keep talking about this whole WoW shop thing, and you know, I could see why. I totally understand the thoughts of I'm pushing back against greed, and I'm pushing back against people taking advantage of those around me and potentially even yourself. I think there is a non-zero percentage of people out there who are just totally not in control of spending money. I feel the same way after getting into the Pokemon TCG stuff that we've been opening on Ace Games TV. I have a second channel now where I've been opening Pokemon Pokemon TCG products, yeah, sometimes it's like, whoa, that's a great deal. I got to buy it. And it's like, I really shouldn't, you know what I mean? But it's like, it can be hard to limit your spending at times when there's things that you're very passionate about. But, you know, unfortunately, this is just down to you. Like whether or not they're predatory. Yeah, I mean, you could say that, but at the same time, like it's not a slot machine or something like that, right? Like people go to the casino and spend thousands of dollars a week. This is, you paid for something, you paid for a commodity. Like you gave somebody money and you got something back. So if you're not able to like level that off in your head, like is $90 worth what I'm about to get, then this is just something you need to work on. This is not on the company. Their like express written goal as a company is to earn dollar bills. Okay. And I think this is another really unsung part of this whole conversation, because I think there's a lot of people out there where people just hate the cash shop. And this also spreads over to the company. Like they don't just dislike, you know, people buying cosmetic mounts or transmogs on the shop. They dislike Blizzard earning money. Like I think there's like a genuine disdain for this company earning money. And to me, that is like an absolutely juvenile approach to anything that you would ever put your heart and soul into. Like this game only exists because they earn money, right? One way or the other. Whether or not you believe they earn too much or too little, that's just fact. That is not debatable. And there certainly wouldn't still be development, okay? So the bigger issue though is what this money actually goes to. And when we talked about this on stream, it caused a bit of a stir. And I think the way to look at it is if you support Blizzard whatsoever, like if you want them to succeed, then you should want them to earn money. And this purchase here is not like an offensive purchase, right? It's not like you paid some amount of money and got nothing back. You know exactly what you're getting back. We know the value of it. This was a big part of this conversation because we know this thing is worth 5 million gold. Like this concept is worth 5 million gold. So it's not like it started out, you could only get it from being good at Mythic Plus. Like if that was the challenge mode gear, right? Then you start paying $90 for that, that would be offensive. That would be a huge issue. But we know the price of it was 5 million gold, which was the equivalent of something like hundreds of dollars, one way or the other, more than 90. And now it's pretty much the same amount, maybe even a better looking one, but that's subjective, for less than it was in the past. So we got a deal here. And if you don't want Blizzard to succeed financially, then don't buy the mount and you can make these statements. But otherwise, everybody else should be happy about this. If you're like me, you could just not fucking care. Like I could not give a shit about this mount, but I just didn't buy them out. Like, and I'm not buying it because it's some protest. It's just stupid for me to buy it, dude. I don't ever use the auction house. Like there would never be a time when I'd be like, I can't afford to go back to the city right now and buy something. You have a million Hearthstones. I'm a Death Knight. Like, I mean, there's a billion ways to go to an auction house right now. And you got portals back and forth between the dungeons. Like it's just pointless. And me and Jambo talked about this on the stream today as well. We like going to the auction house. We like walking around the city and feeling like there's places in the game that are important. Like the bank is there, the auction house is there, the portals are in certain places. Like these things are supposed to be core integrations into the world content and the world building of Azeroth itself. And we're just eroding them. So I'm just not going to do that. Like that's why I do nomad leveling challenges, because I like traveling from place to place. So yeah, to me, this is a total non-issue. If anything, it would be offensive to those. You know, I do know a few people who tried to do it in BFA, and I don't remember, but somebody tried to buy one in BFA and they actually hit the cap on on WoW tokens. So they couldn't, or they had to get gold from somebody else. I think they had to borrow gold from somebody else or something. So yeah, that's really unfortunate because there is a cap on how many you can buy a year, I believe. It's definitely not anywhere near as hot of a topic. And I do think, you know, some people said that there's just like some jealousy to it for those who believe they can't afford it. Do you want to spend $90? That's up to you. And like I said, I don't. I did not want to spend $90. So I just didn't buy it. Really good option there. You want to protest, you want to take a stand, just don't buy it. Other people like it. Obviously, we've seen all the screenshots and a lot of people clearly liked it. Maybe some people bought it and are going to regret buying it. At the end of the day, unless you hate the company, this is a real big win for Blizzard. They just turned a pretty weird week into a pretty big success. The patch came out and not a great reception was alongside of it. We made that video last week. And it's actually kind of funny, right? Because within about 3 days, we went from people protesting and talking about how bad the game's balance and design was, to then just throwing, like literally like lobbing $90 stacks of cash at the company. Those people who bought that, they bought it like seconds. Like I saw people, without any exaggeration, like hundreds of thousands of dollars must have been spent within seconds of anybody knowing about that. Probably millions of dollars have already been spent on this one mount. And that's a good thing for Blizzard. Like I want Blizzard to succeed. Do I want to give them money for that to happen? No, I don't have the funds for that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you $90 for a mount. I'm not going to use. But they should have the money. They deserve it. They put a great game out, in my opinion. So that's my thoughts on it. I'm sure a lot of people are on both sides of it. I really think that if you're on the side of not believing that you can spend $90 on this mount or thinking it's an unfair price tag, you need to think of it from the other direction. For all those people who probably agreed that it was an unfair price tag back in BFA, but did pay that money, those people kind of lost something here. And like I said, that is far more offensive to me. But either way, I don't care because I just didn't buy it. Easy solution to this problem, right? Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think. We'll see you guys in the next one.